Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. The sensex and the nifty hit a record high thanks to a rally in IT stocks. The nifty crosses 21,900 for the first time in intraday trade. The sensex up 800 points, moving past the 72,000 mark. FY25 will be better than FY24, says the TCS management. IT stocks rally in trade as Infosys and TCS expect an uptick in BFSI spending. Also expect generative AI to deliver good value in the next 3 quarters. TCS says campus hiring will continue, but the salary for freshers will remain the same. Wipro beats muted estimates in Q3. Revenue declines by nearly 2%, but not as bad as the markets had feared. It expects full-year revenue growth to decline or remain flat. The US and UK carry out airstrikes in Yemen, targeting Houthi rebels who have been disrupting shipping routes in the Red Sea. President Biden warns of further action if necessary. Houthis term the attack as barbaric and say they will continue to target ships heading towards Israel. Israel responds at the ICJ a day after South Africa alleged Israel's genocidal intent in Gaza. Says South Africa has put forward a distorted factual and legal picture, adding that their actions in Gaza were in self-defense following what was a wholesome massacre committed by Hamas on the 7th of October. BlackRock hands a sharp 95% cut to the valuation of Byju's. The troubled edtech company's valuation has dropped from $22 billion to just $1 billion in less than 2 years. Just about 20 days for the interim budget. Sources say government is considering a 50% hike to insurance cover under the flagship Aayushman Bharat scheme. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates India's longest sea bridge in Mumbai today. The 22-kilometre bridge from South Mumbai to Navi Mumbai will reduce the current 2-hour travel time to just 20 minutes. Straight to the big earnings of the day. It's a strong showing by Wipro in the third quarter. Dollar revenue ahead of street estimates, margins at 15%, also better than what the street expected. Rima is standing by now to take us through the details. Wipro also done. Rima, what's the scorecard?
Wipro is better than very muted expectations. So the company's reported a revenue decline, and revenues for the company have fallen for the 4th consecutive quarter now. Constant currency revenue growth is down 1.7%, but it's better than what the street was anticipating. Even on the margin front, margins are down 10 basis points, but at 16%, it's higher than the CNBC-TV18 poll. The booking numbers in a seasonally weak quarter continue to remain strong. So the company said that the total bookings at $3.8 billion are flat sequentially, and the large bookings, they're down on a quarter-on-quarter basis, but on a year-on-year basis, they're up 20%. The Q4 guidance, that's the guidance for the Jan to March quarter, has come at minus 1.5 to plus 0.5%. But even now, at least there is a possibility that the company is looking at a positive growth. And I think the statement by Thierry Delaporte is the most promising. They're saying that we're starting to see early signs of a return to growth in consulting, as demonstrated by our double-digit growth in order bookings in the Capco business. So, Wipro was one of the worst hits in the IT downturn, in the slowdown, on account of its exposure to consulting. And if consulting starts to recover, then Wipro will have that upside. So I think the statement is very telling and promising. So on the whole, Wipro has also delivered ahead of what the street was anticipating on muted expectations. And a quick word on the scorecard, as you pointed out, in terms of revenues, it's TCS which tops the chart, followed by Infosys with a minus 1% growth. And then you've got Wipro at minus 1.7%. But all three companies have delivered well compared to, the street's worst expectations and fears. Back to you.
All right, Rima, many thanks for joining us. So it's not bad as what the street had feared, and hence we've seen IT stocks doing better in trade. And staying with that, here's what they did on the Lal Street today. The street digested the Q3 earnings fine print from both TCS and Infosys. The TCS management told CNBC-TV18 that FY25 will be better than FY24. TCS and Infosys are also betting on a potential turn in BFSI spending by clients. TCS also believes generative AI will deliver good value in the next 3 quarters. TCS will continue campus hiring, but the salary for freshers will remain the same. That's the IT rally for you. The Nifty IT index up 5% today. TCS putting on almost 4%. Infosys higher by 8%. So strong uptick coming in there for the IT stocks.
Overall, we are optimistic. Like we are not, I think it's too early to call that things will be back to normal or back to good old days. But overall, we are optimistic. Two major headwinds for us in BFSI last quarter. There are some large programs coming to an end and the seasonal furloughs. Going forward in Q4, we don't expect, at least the furlough will not be there.
The big tech companies really look at it, whether it's Microsoft or others, they're all looking at Gen AI as a big source of productivity and efficiency gain for them. They are employing the Gen AI for their own internal productivity, internal deliveries to show to the other industries saying that, look, this is really for real, this is going to work for you. Over the next 3 quarters, in my opinion, this technology should mature and deliver some real good value for the industry as such.
Campus hiring is our strategic bet for our business. That has been our, what we do as a core aspect of our business. That will continue.
What's the starting salary now for freshers?
It has been there, the same salary what we've been giving for so many years.
Well, that is the TCS management. Now, the rally in IT stocks powered the sensex and the nifty to new record highs. The sensex up 800 points, zooming past the 72,000 milestone. The nifty added about 250 points. The nifty mid-cap was higher by 170 points. The nifty bank up by about 0.5% or so. So new records being broken for our markets. Prashant is standing by now to take us through the market wrap. Earnings and IT specifically, Prashant, doing its bit to boost momentum.
It had been a ranged market for the last fortnight or so, 200-point range on the Nifty, and today finally it broke higher, and help came from the most unexpected quarters. IT services is what powered the index up, and we basically closed just about 80-90 points away from the 22,000 mark, which means that we actually hit a new high on the Nifty today, and all thanks to the technology pack, which I'll get to in just a bit from now. Nifty Bank on your screen also participated on the upside, but it was not a banking dip per se. Mid-caps and small caps participated. Market breadth, though, was, for an index which was up 250 points on the Nifty, market breadth was more subdued, more advances as compared to declines, but not one-sided in that sense. Large cap IT is what I want to start with. All Nifty gainers. Look at this. Infosys, Tech Mahindra, HCL Tech, LTI Mindtree, Wipro, TCS. So the top 6 gainers on the index, all IT services. The 7th name was the ONGC, which also did well with that bounce we've seen in oil prices. Nifty pullbacks, nothing very large at all. Cipla, Apollo Hospitals, and Bajaj Finserv were some of them which saw some profit booking. Mid-cap IT also participated. Names like Coforge, Birla Soft, Sonata Software. There were names like IRFC, Irida, Avanti Feed, Bank of India did well, Union Bank, Karnataka Bank, the smaller banks are participating quite well. Lodha, which is Macrotech, Utkarsh Small Finance Bank, Zuari Industries were some of the other names which did very well. Some pullbacks coming through in stocks like Ease My Trip, Metropolis and JTL Industries. As I said, the Nifty is broken out after a fortnight or so of consolidation. Maybe there is more to go here, provided global markets keep company. Back to you.
All right, Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Here's the latest from the conflict that is ensuing in West Asia. The US and Britain have launched airstrikes in Yemen targeting Houthi rebels who've been disrupting shipping routes in the Red Sea. This is the first known strike against the Iran-backed Houthi militants inside of Yemen. US President Joe Biden has warned of further action if necessary, while the UK has said that the attacks were an act of self-defense, terming the attack as barbaric. The Houthis have pledged retaliation. The group's officials have also said they will continue to target ships heading towards Israel. Israel has responded at the International Court of Justice a day after South Africa alleged Israel's genocidal intent in Gaza. The country's lawyers argued that South Africa has put forward a distorted factual and legal picture. Israel has also maintained that its actions in Gaza are in self-defense following attacks by Hamas on the 7th of October.
The applicant has regrettably put before the court a profoundly distorted factual and legal picture. It is unsurprising, therefore, that in the applicant's telling, both Hamas's responsibility for the situation in Gaza and the very humanity of its Israeli victims are removed from view.
The international community continues to fail the Palestinian people despite the overt, dehumanizing, genocidal rhetoric by Israeli governmental and military officials, despite the horror of the genocide against the Palestinian people being live-streamed from Gaza to our mobile phones, computers and television screens. The first genocide in history where its victims are broadcasting their own destruction in real time in the desperate, so far vain hope that the world might do something.
Well, that's the latest at the ICJ. Onto the energy market, crude oil prices jumping over 2% after airstrikes on the Houthi militants in Yemen. Markets fear that the strikes could disrupt supply from the Middle East. Back home, Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri was asked about fuel prices at a press conference. He highlighted the disruption in the Red Sea and the rise in freight rates, also adding that oil marketing companies did not hike prices even when they had huge under-recoveries. Take a look.
OMCs or oil marketing company, exemplary role. They were good corporate citizens. खुद ना नुकसान हो रहा था, under recovery हो रही थी. Still they didn't raise the price. India, I think, and I'm saying I think because most likely, is the only country in the world where prices of petrol and diesel at the bunk have come down. Global production is sufficient to meet global demand, which is in the hands of the OPEC Plus. They keep producing this thing. But so far the good news is that we have navigated it quite well. हमने यहाँ ना अवेलेबिलिटी में कमी आने दी, ना अफोर्डेबिलिटी में कमी आने दी और सस्टेनेबिलिटी भी हम कर रहे हैं.
That's the oil minister Hardeep Puri. China's consumer price index for December declined for the third consecutive month to 0.3%. This drop was largely led by weak domestic demand. The country's producer price index also slipping to 2.7% on an annual basis. This is the longest streak of decline that the country has witnessed since more than a decade. In dollar terms, China's exports in December up 2.3%, while imports marginally jumped 0.2%. Asset management company BlackRock has slashed the valuation of its portfolio company Baiju's yet again, this time to just over $1 billion. Now, with this, BlackRock has slashed its valuation by 95% of Baiju's in the last 2 years. Aishwarya Anand gets us more on what has gone wrong with Baiju's valuation and what we should expect from here on. Take a look.
BlackRock has marked down the value of its holding in Baiju's, slashing the valuation of the edtech startup to a staggering $1 billion. This is a massive fall for Baiju's, which became the world's most valued edtech startup at $22 billion in 2022. Now, the first instance of valuation markdown for the edtech, BlackRock, which owns less than 1% of Baiju's, in May 2023 had slashed its valuation by 62% to $8.3 billion. In November 2023, Prosus had downsized the valuation of the edtech giant to below $3 billion. Prosus had then said Baiju's is a more challenged business and is confronting several headwinds. Peak 15 had also told its investors in its funds on July 26 that it is marking down its investment in the company over lack of visibility into its audited financials. Baiju's is amidst a plethora of troubles. In a high-drama annual general meeting held on December 20, 2023, investors of the edtech giant grappled with a tumultuous session lasting 3 hours. The meeting featured a series of resolutions, most notably the approval of the audited FY22 financials, which passed despite shareholder concerns over auditor issues. The edtech giant on November 4th had finally released its financial statements for the financial year 2021 to 2022. The company reported an EBITDA loss of rupees 2,253 crore in FY22, about 6.36% lower than the rupees 2,406 crore loss it reported in FY21. Now, it's important to note that the results of Baiju's core business operations and do not include its acquisitions.
Aishwarya, many thanks for joining us. Shares of Nika dropping 3% in early trade after nearly 2.7 crore shares worth 516 crore rupees changed hands on the bourses. Buyers and sellers of the shares were not announced. However, sources have told CNBC-TV18 that Lexdale International was likely to sell 2.62 crore shares of Nika via block deal today. So that deal going through. A CNBC-TV18 exclusive, JSW Energy in advanced stages to finalize investors for its renewable energy arm, JSW Neo. Sources tell us that JSW Neo plans to raise $1 billion in tranches to meet its targets. Firms in the Middle East with an interest in renewables are keen on buying a stake in the arm. This includes prominent investors from Qatar. On to another exclusive. With less than 20 days to go for the interim budget, sources tell CNBC-TV18 the government is considering an up to 50% hike in insurance cover under the Aayushman Bharat scheme. A final nod is awaited. Timsy standing by with more. Timsy, what is being considered at this point in time? What are your sources telling you?
Well, that's right. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the government is considering hiking Aayushman Bharat cover by up to 50%. As per sources, the proposal is under active consideration. However, a final decision is yet to be taken. Just to give a brief outlook of the scheme, Aayushman Bharat is a flagship scheme of government which was launched as per the recommendations under the National Health Policy 2017 with an aim to achieve the vision of universal health coverage. Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana or PMJAY, the scheme under review, currently is the largest health assurance scheme in the world, which aims at providing a health cover of 5 lakh rupees per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization. As per the performance of the scheme so far, government claims 25.21 crore Aayushman cards have been generated and the number is soon going to reach 30 crore plus. Government claims that more than 5.68 crore authorized hospital admission counts have been recorded. About 70,000 crore rupees of authorized hospital admission amount has been registered and over 26,000 hospitals have been empaneled under the scheme. To be seen as whether the government takes this shot in the interim budget or it would like to wait to announce this under the manifesto for general elections. That is something that we'll have to wait and watch for. Back to you.
Timsy, many thanks for joining us. Up next, Prime Minister Modi inaugurates India's longest sea bridge in Mumbai today. That and more when we return. Prime Minister Modi has inaugurated India's longest sea bridge in Mumbai. Will reduce the current 2-hour travel time to just 20 minutes. Santya has more.
Right now we are in Navi Mumbai and this is the Nhava Sheva end of the Atal Setu bridge. Now this bridge, the reason this is its twin city, Navi Mumbai, and this is going to cut the travel at least 1 hour and distance by at least 30 kilometers. End of this particular bridge is Shivri, Navi Mumbai, that falls which means that this bridge is going to connect southern Mumbai with also, which will ensure that not just southern Mumbai, in fact western Mumbai will also get connected to MTHL. Worli Shivri connector, because if somebody wants to travel from western area, they can take the Bandra Worli ceiling, then they can take the Worli Shivri connector, and then they can get onto MTHL. Now the shelf life of this bridge is said to be 100 years and the capacity of the bridge is to carry at least 70,000 vehicles per day.
Okay, Santya, many thanks. Now, India's Civil Aviation Minister inaugurated the MRO for joint venture between 2 major companies in India and the US. AAR, which is a major company in the US, joins hands with Indemar, which is the oldest MRO in India. Madhya has more from Nagpur.
Nagpur is home to 2 major MROs in India, the Air India Engineering Services Limited and the AAR Indemar MRO, where I'm standing right now. This is a 30,000-acre facility that has 5 hangars which have the capacity to service 6 planes at a time and 1 hangar that does paint work for an aircraft. The AAR Indemar MRO is celebrating the 100th check of Indigo's Airbus aircraft, and Indigo CEO Peter Albers spoke to CNBC-TV18 about how convenient it is to service their planes in an Indian MRO versus sending them to an overseas MRO.
This MRO helps us to make sure that we can do the service in India itself. We don't need to go abroad. We can do it right here. We develop knowledge. There's a lot of cooperation between the MRO and Indigo itself. We should have a good balance in what's out there in the market and how our products are being priced. And if you see the general price levels and even compare it international, The Indian market is a very competitive market. It's a very price-sensitive market at the same time. I think for us at Indigo, we go with those fluctuations in the market and we price our products accordingly.
An Airbus A320 aircraft requires mandatory checks every 1600 hours of flying. This includes airframe repair, component replacement, and cabin and floorboard replacement. This exercise could cost an airline up to 70 lakh rupees in India versus 2 crore rupees at an overseas MRO. Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia told CNBC-TV18 he expects India to become the aviation service center of the world.
India should certainly become an MRO hub for our Indian airlines. But in the days to come, as you heard in my speech, with Asia becoming a center for international traffic, both in terms of passenger traffic growing to almost 50% and in terms of fleet size of airlines growing to about 40%. And I believe that the epicenter of Asia is India. And therefore, India has the capability to become the service center from an MRO perspective, not only for Indian airlines, but for international airlines.
That day is not far where we will actually become the largest aviation market in the world. Because the only thing which is still holding us back is that the development of infrastructure has to be now increased, I would say 10x. Indigo said that we have in 2023 not sent a single aircraft overseas for check. That itself is a reflection that there is so much more happening now in India.
Well, India's aspiration of becoming the MRO capital of the world. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned. There's a lot more after this break.